Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. As always, I'm thrilled that you're joining us today. Now, we use that word, or we hear that word change, or change happens in our life. Yikes, right? Our instinct is that pit or knot in our stomach. Well, to hopefully help you navigate change and whatever that means to you right now in your life, I have a free gift for you. If you go in the show notes, there's a link to my free communication style assessment. You'll get 2 reports. One spotlights just your natural communication superpowers and really spotlights how people perceive your messaging. Flip side, your lowest score is kind of where it's that 360-degree person that speaks opposite of us. You get a report for that as well. Kind of important to understand what our superpowers are, but also our blind spots. So again, my gift to you, the link for the communication style assessment is in the show notes. I'd love for you to take it. Now, my motivational quote today is by Robert Frost, and he says, in 3 words, I could sum up everything I've learned about life. It goes on. Now, do you believe that the spirits of people who have passed on could communicate with us and maybe even teach us some lessons in our lives currently? This is a strange question, right? That you're thinking, where are you going with this, Con? Yet their shared evidence proves that spirit world and our world actually coexist and can communicate together. Now, my guest and I, we're going to speak about the loss of her son, Anthony, and how he has become her guide to transformation for herself with a really cool ripple effect, helping other people transform their own lives. Now, Terri Ann Russell is a quantum activator, Violet Flame 4.0 creator. She's an alchemist, healer, author, and reverend. She is an intuitive empath healer with abilities to clairsentience and clairaudience. Her first book, From Death to Life, The Incredible True Story of Anthony Joseph, was written just 4 months after her middle son's passing. At his urging, she started writing, leading her on a path of healing. Now, she shares the heartache and raw emotion of such a profound loss and the connection with her son that exists long after his passing, providing that love truly never dies. She's currently finishing a series of books, very excited to talk about today. The first one's called Reaching for You, a workbook for spiritual transformation with Mother Mary, a crystalline light series. And this series is going to share a deep connection with Mother Mary through transmissions that help you uplift the frequency of your heart and align you with your higher self. At the urging of her son, Terri Ann took a year-long road trip during COVID with her family to heal from the loss of her son. During this time, she began channeling Mother Mary. This journey of exploration into self would bring up wounds that would require her to go deeper into the work of ancestral healing. She is deep, she is cool, and she is my friend. Please help me welcome Terri Ann to the show. So Terri, thanks for being on, my friend.
Well, I am so excited to be here, Connie. It's always a pleasure talking to you. It just uplifts me.
Back at you. And, you know, you and I, we've met, you came cross country. I was one of the people you stopped to see on the Jersey Shore, and we had a beautiful lunch, my husband and I and your husband. And it's like we've known each other forever. So that's just always such a cool experience when humans, we get to experience that. Clearly we knew each other in previous lives, but you know, the loss of your son is so profound, and yet you've taken that and his guidance, which I think is really cool, and now you're helping others. And I think that's just freaking amazing, because you have this gift and you're sharing it. And I just love that about you. So let's start with, go backwards for me. Take us back to the death. I mean, this is, I know, a horrible conversation, but take us back to the death of Anthony and how this really sets the stage for what was to come. And now this book, right? You did the one book, but now this book. So what did that look like?
Yeah, and it's totally different. Well, actually, I don't believe it's a coincidence, but right now we're almost at his 4-year angelversary. Okay, so there's no coincidence that we're here and we're doing this again. You know, when I look back on it, I had really no idea at that time what would come from such a horrible circumstance in our life. Losing my child, it was one of the most heart-wrenching things I've ever experienced. I still experience deep grief at times, depending on what's going on in my life. My earthly experience was blocking in the beginning with him. I didn't want to hear from him. I didn't want to speak to him. I didn't believe he was dead. My body, my brain was in such a shock. It's so hard to believe that 1 minute you're here and 1 minute you're not. We had just seen him about 3 days before he passed, and he was perfectly fine. He said he was, a little tired. That was it. And he worked a lot. So I didn't think anything of it. Devastating. Just I can remember when I look back on it, experiencing every stage of grief as we, denial, anger, fear, everything came up for me. And so it's been 4 years now. I still miss my son greatly. That's not going to change. I mean, there are people I've talked to that said it does change, but I don't know. For me, it hasn't changed. I cry every day. I'll still cry probably forever. It's just a piece. It's a different way of being with him, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
And when you finally, what allowed you to finally let him in back then? You were in denial, right? You went through, was it after you went through the stages of grief that we know, right? That's kind of commonplace in our society. Was it after that all of a sudden you were open to it? Like, was there a catalyst, I guess, to open your mind and heart to it?
No, he was just very persistent. Very persistent.
Typical kid.
He didn't give me any leeway. I had no choice, honestly. He was my friend who also lost a child, said, he's so hard on you. He would come in and slam the bed and say, get up and write this book. And I'd scream, I can't do this. I can't. And I was haunted by dark images, and I was really in the dark night of the soul. There was at a point in my life where I was suicidal for about a month. I didn't want to be here without him. I couldn't see a way through. And he kept telling me, there is a way through. You've just got to keep going through it. And so eventually I did give in, and I listened, and I started writing. The most beautiful thing I found was it became very cathartic for me to start to write out everything that I was feeling. And I think that's why the book is so raw and emotional, From Death to Life, because it was so early on in my grieving process that everything I share is true, raw emotion.
But I think, Terri, that's so helpful, because people who are going through it like you're suicidal for a month, and it's real. So when somebody can read that and see that you came through the other side and share those experiences, I think it gives hope, but I think it also gives a roadmap for people to find their way through. And Anthony, from the other side is really a guiding light, not just for you, but for that ripple effect that you create through these books and through your teachings and your channeling and all of that. How did, you get channeling, and Mother Mary came to you? So they began preparing you in a specific way prior to writing this book that this series that you're working on now. How was that preparation different than the first book, where Anthony kind of get your butt out of bed, woman, right? You're doing this, right? That tough love that I just love that was before we go on to that next question, was that a sense of his energy while he was living also? That like, I'm going to kick your ass if you don't do this.
Yes. And New York, New Jersey, Italian.
Yeah. Love it. So he is him, even in spirit.
Yes, he's exactly. He'll curse. I mean, I've had mediums, friends come to me and he curses, and he shares. And so that's just who he is. And I truly believe that when they pass, their personality doesn't change.
I love it. So now let's shift over to the new book. What was the preparation, and how did they prepare you for these channelings to create this series now of books, not even just one book?
So I didn't know this at the time either. It's not like I get the whole big picture. Anthony describes it as if it's like a buffet or a smorgasbord, right? We get little bits at a time. You can choose what you want to do, but you can't just overfill yourself with all of this stuff. You can't digest it. So I get little bits and pieces. So unbeknownst to me at the time of what was to come from this experience now, we had traveled around the United States, and each place Anthony guided me to, I was doing grid work with the earth. So the earth has an invisible grid over it, right? And that grid is subject to many different energies. It's been broken down. So I was guided. So let me go back. About 2 years before Anthony passed, I started receiving zip codes when I moved to Sedona. I didn't know what these zip codes meant. 5 numbers, ding, 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 and I would write them down. Having no idea what these would mean 2 years before. Now we're led to go on the road by him. He took me to these zip codes. There were specific areas. One that strikes me as very memorable was up in Schenectady, New York. And I needed to go to Schenectady for sure. And that was one of the areas that I needed to work on, the grid there. The interesting thing is he would give me a prayer. He would give me what crystals to use. I would meditate in the earth. I would sit on the ground and I would do specific things, anchoring in my energy and him through me. So it created like this light connection into the earth. After I would be done with that work, there would be torrential downpour wherever we were. And I knew then we were to leave the next day. So I drove my husband crazy because I would say, oh, we're going to be in New York for 6 weeks. And we get to New York and we're there 3 days. Now the work is done. It's time to go. So there was no method to the madness. And my husband is very analytical, very practical. Like, we just got here. You said we were going to be here 6 weeks and now we're leaving already. We don't have any plans. Where are we supposed to? And I'm like, just, it's all guided. I can't tell you. I don't know. It just comes in. So it was really interesting for him to be out of his comfort zone during that time.
Big time. And he's a delight. Your husband is such a good guy. The poor man, he's like, oh my God, right? She's killing me here.
I've always said, if you're married to a psychic, intuitive healer, I mean, you've got to be a strong person, because we tend to go off on these tangents of guidance, you know, back and forth. We're moving to Sedona, we're moving to Phoenix. You know, our life has been like that. And people look at us from the outside and think we're crazy, when in reality, it's all guided. If I don't follow the guidance, it's usually very much more difficult. We stayed in Sedona longer than we should have when we came back. You know, we weren't doing well there. It was time for us to leave, but I kept fighting that. I didn't want to leave Sedona. So when I found throughout my journey, the more that I fight the guidance that I'm receiving, the more difficult it is. The more I go with whatever they're asking me to do, the easier it is for me.
So now, isn't this fascinating? Because people listening, and I know myself, as I'm hearing you say this, there are times, and I could look back recently, where it was fight, fight, fight. I know I'm doing the right thing. And it was horrible uphill battle, frustration, you know, sleepless nights. And then as soon as you surrender and think, I got no more, I'm done. Like, I just don't know what to do. And as soon as you release and surrender the control, it works out. And you're like, why did I wait so long? So I know people are listening, but it's exactly what you just said. So I think all of us humans, right, we get these divine downloads from source, God, whatever you want to call it, right? Your loved ones that are guides for us now. Like, I know my mom is always by my right shoulder, by the way. I don't know why, but she's always by my right shoulder. So it's funny but you have to be open to that guidance, those little nudges, and they're intuitive, their feelings. It's, you know, I know Anthony actually like yelled at you, like, get up, woman, right? Like you heard his voice. So, but everybody doesn't get that same kind of download, right? I know my one sister, she was real close to my grandpa when we were younger, and he smoked Pall Mall, the red pack cigarettes, no filter, right? And it had a certain odor. Whenever she's at a major crossroads, she'll smell that cigarette. Nobody in the house smokes, right? She knows it's him guiding her, like, I've got you, you've got this. But we have to be open to these signals, right? And when we fight them, like you said, I stayed in Sedona too long. It was freaking miserable. And as soon as you surrender and let go, all of a sudden these opportunities fall into place. But we fight it. What? And I don't know that you know the answer to this, but why do humans fight so hard for that control when that surrender is easier? And usually the result is more pleasant, filled, and good, right? We get good results.
Yeah. I believe we're conditioned to do that. We are conditioned to believe that whatever I'm hearing, knowing, feeling, seeing is crazy, right? How could that happen? How am I going to move there? Where am I going to get the money to do this? I have no money. I'm just supposed to pick up my family and move to another state or move to another town without any backup plan. So a lot of people think to themselves, like, how am I need to have a plan, right? We're very analytical beings, right? We're capable of thinking our process through, and sometimes we overthink it. But I find when you just let go and you surrender to what is, and you ask, please show me the way. Every day I try to ask God, please show me where you need me to be today. And whether that's a chance meeting with somebody in a coffee shop, or whether that's, walking down the street and smiling at somebody that may need it. You don't know where God is going to put you that moment in that time that somebody may need to have that from you. So I try to ask every morning, please show me what you need me to do today.
I tell you, I think that's a good habit. We shower every day. So why wouldn't we, hey, what do you want me to do today? Right? Give me the guidance. Let me be where I'm supposed to be. Let me make the biggest impact I can today. Send me, right? Shoot me and get me out there. So I think that is such a great question to start our day with. I love that. Back to the book. So how do you connect? Thank you for that. It was an aside, but I think, because you've been doing this for so long and you've been surrendering in trust, right? But you took your daughter, she was 13, 12. How old was she when you took her on the road?
11.
11. So I want everybody to understand that it wasn't just you and your husband that picked up, right? Got in a motorhome and came across the United States. Like, you had this 11-year-old with you, right? You had all of this adventure ahead of you that you didn't even know about. And you had an 11-year-old who, by the way, had a great experience, right? It was probably transformative for her as well.
Oh, everybody said, oh my gosh, are you crazy? Are you going to take her? How's she going to meet children? Where's she going to be? But you have to understand, it was COVID at that time. She was being homeschooled. So I probably would not have taken her out of school to do this. Yeah. I can't say for sure, but I probably wouldn't have taken her out of school to do this, but there was COVID. So she was being homeschooled. So we sort of incorporated all of that plan. We had to sell our business. We had to sell all of our possessions. We could go with nothing. I mean, we had like maybe 10 boxes I put at my brother's house because those were really special to us. But everything else we sold. Everything we owned, we sold, and we were told. And we had the trust. I have to share this before we go on to the Mary book, but so we had no money left after we bought our RV either. You have to understand this. We had no money. We bought our RV with everything we own. Cash, right? Out. We get to Texas. My husband starts doing this RV transporting, where he goes and he picks up an RV and he brings it somewhere. And I said to Anthony, God, please, Anthony, please help us. I don't know if we have no money, we're going home after this. And so my husband calls me up and he says, guess where my first place is that I'm delivering an RV? And I said, where? And he says, Anthony, Texas.
Stop.
Mind blown. I didn't even know there was an Anthony, Texas. I was mind blown. And he's like, see, do you see now?
I love it.
You cannot make that up. You can't make that happen. You can't make that up. I didn't even know there were cities named Anthony.
But you're right. You can't make it up, but you can't control it either. So this, the leap of faith, it's funny because, COVID, everybody had different experiences, but you really embraced it to think, whoa, here's an opportunity where maybe I can, because I'm homeschooling her anywhere. So it's not like I'm pulling her out, and we didn't know how long it was going to last. So the timing was kind of impeccable. Again, divine timing. You see, everybody listening, do you see where this show is going today? It's mind blowing, right? So, all right, back to Mother Mary. How do you connect with her? And here's the bigger question for me, Tara. Come on. How do you know it's her?
So Mother Mary's energy is totally different than Anthony's energy. Every spirit that I connect with has a different energy, a different vibration that comes in. When my son comes in, I cry, I weep. I have this deep loss, a feeling of my son, right? He's not here in the physical. So it's painful, it's a loss. When Mary comes in, I find it difficult to put it into human words. There's a feeling that I'm held in a capacity that I've never felt before in my entire life. I feel it through my heart space. This energy of love fills me. I do cry sometimes because it's the most gentle, loving, caring energy that I've ever felt in my life. It's just, it's a familiar knowing, this expression that comes through me, and she calls me my child. Every one of my guides address me differently. Her, it's my child. Anthony, it's Ma. My doorkeeper, it's my lady.
Isn't that interesting? Explain to us, how does transmissions work? Just so everybody understands what you're talking about. I understand the different energy that they bring and the titling of how they approach you. How does transmission work in general?
So transmissions, they're energy, right? When spoken, they emit another energy. Like when you say, I am beautiful, right? That's emitting an energy through the spoken word. Mm-hmm. What's interesting about transmissions that I've found is that everyone who's speaking it, it's different than for them because they are speaking it. I'm not doing it. Right? Mary is transmitting the energy, but they are speaking that energy. So for every person, what they receive is exactly what they need to receive. That's what I find so amazing about this work with transmissions, is that everybody, like I explained in the book, some of the things that I went through, right? Some of the unraveling, some of the deep wounds that I had to uncover in myself, my childhood, in order for me to evolve into this next level that I was going to. Maybe not everybody's going to have to experience those things because they've had a different experience in life than what I've had, right? Yeah. So their transmissions may be gentler, they may be easier, they may skip through a few, like really quick, and then other ones may be hard. Forgiveness, maybe that's a hard one for you. So I found it's so different in how everybody receives that information.
Now, you've said that the book is to be experienced, integrated, right, and processed. In your opinion, is this why some people, do you feel that they get stuck or stop when going through the book as they're reading it? Because you're getting feedback, right, from readers all the time.
Yeah, so think about it. If you're really truly experience this book the way it's supposed to be experienced, you're following your own inner guidance. Mary wanted to stress the most important part of this book and this work is it's exactly for you. So if you're not willing to like go through and do the journal questions or sit down and go through the processing of what's coming up for you, it's going to be no use to you. If you think you're just going to read through this book and skim through it, it's not going to work for you. You have to be open into being in that space of experiencing, integrating, and processing. That means you have to be open to doing the work. What comes up for you, right? What comes up for you? What do you need to look at in your life? Where are your deepest wounds? Are they mother wounds? Are they father wounds? Are they sister wounds? Are they religion wounds? Are they witch wounds? We have all these wounds that are embedded within us, right? But we don't always understand what that means. So people get stuck because it may be too difficult to be in that space of really looking at what that is for them.
Is this book just for people who have experienced tremendous loss or trauma in their life? Or is this truly a guide for everybody? Because life is hard enough, right? It's not a cakewalk for sure. So is this for everybody, Terri?
I think it's for everybody that's seeking spiritual transformation. And right now we're in a place in our world where people are awakening very quickly. Our
Yes.
energy, our frequencies are shifting. The earth's frequency is shifting. So
Yeah.
people are starting to awakening to this place of spirituality. They're questioning more. Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? What is my purpose? Am I just supposed to work 9 to 5, pay my bills, and then die?
Yeah.
Is there anything else after that? Is there anything else out there in the atmosphere besides just humans that live on Earth? So they're beginning more so to question. And as they become through this awakening, they're starting to experience and have their own experiences. I can't tell you how many people come to me and say, you're going to think I'm crazy, but, and I always say, I'm never going to think you're crazy because I've experienced the most crazy things in the world that I'd ever think I would experience.
Exactly. If I was looking at my life from the outside, you'd be like, that woman's a nut, right? And yeah, look at all these beautiful things that you're creating to help all of us, mere humans over here. Now, I know there's 12, we're almost out of time, but I want to talk about there's 12 transmissions. And you talk about that they build off one another. Can you just share, because I really want people to understand the essence of the book and to really decide, is this what I should be reading this summer? Is this what the next piece of work that I need to do on self, right? To bring me to that higher level of understanding and love and all those other things to change our vibration. What are those 12 transmissions?
So think of the transmissions. I equate it to like a flash drive, right? We have a flash drive we put in our computer, but it only holds so much information. We have to delete information on there for the new information to be put on because it only holds so much. Think of our cells as that flash drive, our DNA as that flash drive. We've been coded with information up until this point. Now we've got to delete all of that old information in order for that new information to be downloaded and come in, right? It's about unraveling those wounds, those fears, those doubts. We all have them. Not one of us doesn't have a fear, doubt, wound, lack, whatever it is, worth. We all have these wounds from our inner self that were created at one time in our life or another. So think of it like that as the flash drive, and then it builds off the next one. So the first 6 transmissions are really about releasing what is holding you back, right? It's about going through the transmissions and releasing all of that. The next 6 transmissions about bringing in new energy, new coding, new ways of believing and thinking. So the old beliefs, thoughts, patterns are outdated. They no longer can exist where we're going. And that's going to change you. Think about it. If you got together with somebody at one time and you were both wounded in your relationships, your parents, whatever wounds you have, and now one of you is starting to open up and clear those wounds away, you're becoming a new person. That relationship can no longer exist because that person, one is still wounded and one is not.
Yeah.
They don't no longer align with one another. Think about it, because a lot of times, like, we're people pleasers, right? A lot of us were brought up to believe that we do for others always, and we put ourselves, even if it's at detriment. So it's important for then a people pleaser. What's going to happen? They're going to find somebody that is more apt to want to be taken care of. So it's a perfect relationship in their wounding. Now, the people pleasers say they're starting to heal themselves. They're not going to no longer want to people please the person that needs to be taken care of. So that relationship won't exist. So they either both have to do the work or they have to separate. That makes sense?
It does. And it's interesting because I was about 40. So it's well over 2 decades ago that I started getting, law of attraction, manifestation, all the stuff. I didn't understand this language at all, but I was so fascinated and intrigued. And you've met my husband. And so I started sharing with Rob saying, I don't know, I keep getting like, this stuff is pretty cool. Right. And so he and I together started kind of investigating and the gems and crystals. And we just went down that rabbit hole together. And here's the thing, I'm happy he wanted to do it with me, because if he didn't, I was still going to do what I needed to do for me, but that I opened to share. And he was so game that I think we've both grown together and maybe even stronger than we were, when I was 40, my kids were little. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. So think
Yeah.
about
And
it. What if he had not? You're going to
would have
go in a
been,
different direction, you know? So
yeah.
I think that's too where people get stuck because they start to realize that they are going in another direction. I have plenty of people that come to me and their relationships are ending because one person cannot go down that space of undoing whatever wounds they had.
It's hard, right? You know, I mean, it worked out for me that he was receptive and curious like I was. So we started, you know, talking about it and living it and trying it and playing with it and, you know, being silly sometimes, but it worked for us. So I think that the question for everybody to think, if you're in a relationship, not saying the relationship is even bad. My husband and I weren't in a bad place per se, just that my curiosity went one way and he joined along. So I think you have to be, at the end of the day, right? We kind of have to be true to ourselves, Tara, and do us, right? And share. I would say, like I did, I shared my curiosity, and see if the other person's like, yeah, this sounds so interesting. Let's explore it. You hope, but don't. So here's my advice, right, Terry? Not that I'm an expert like you, but I think share it, because you never know. People might say, all right, I don't know that I believe in this. You know, it's a little hooey for me, but let's try it. So I think be open and be gracious about it. And if the person says no, you know, do you. You still have to do you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to trust that that's your path.
And right, and that's a tough one. Again, it goes back to that whole surrendering. We like to control. You said it. We like to have a plan. We, you know, I want to know what my next step is. We're control freaks in this world, and that's not necessarily a good thing, right? We can talk forever, my friend. You and I love you to death. Website, guys, check Terri Ann out. It's remarkable. Buy the book. I know, Tara, I'm going to buy it. It's going to be my beach read this summer. Yeah, and I'm going to do the work because I feel that I'm always at crossroads. Each decade that passes, I'm like, holy crap, I got to peel back my onion again, right? There's work to be done. So I'm thinking that you know, you and I, we've been in contact, but we hadn't talked in about 6 months. And I came to you and you said, Connie, I don't know, you've been coming to me. I think we need to talk. We had a beautiful chat and now we're having the show. So the book I think was meant for me as well. And I'm open to it. So thank you for your gift. Website, Terri Ann Russell Terri Ann Russell .as.me. I'll put it in the on the show notes, guys. So no worry. Email if you have a question where you've been touched by something that Terri Ann said or part of her story that she shared. Please reach out to her. She's freaking amazing. Just seriously, to have a wonderful conversation with, go to Sassy Soul Advice, because she's sassy. Go to sassysouladvice@gmail.com. And of course, Terri Ann is lovely and generous and has a gift. I will put that in the show notes. It's going to be her link to her YouTube channel. And what is, if they link to it, what do they get if they subscribe, Terri Ann?
So if they subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then if they email me with their email, I will send them my heart healing activation. It's a free 15-minute audio activation that they can use to start to open their heart.
I love it. Thank you so much. Start your journey, continue your journey. And hopefully Terri Ann can help you with that. She really is amazing and she's lovely and she's funny. And yeah, she's fun. So hang out with her like I get to hang out with her, guys. Tara, thanks so much for sharing your time with us and your grief and your journey and your love and just everything that you're about. It's truly inspiring. And, you know, you're amazing. I think you're amazing. So thanks for coming on and sharing your genius with my peeps.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Same, my friend. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together, no matter where you are on this journey of change, because we all are on a journey of change all the time. Please take the information, some of the ideas, and experiences that Terri Ann shared with us. Start to apply them in your life, even if it's just taking her 15-minute download and opening your heart. That could be a really remarkable and healing first step for you. Information's a beautiful thing. If we do nothing with it other than listen to this podcast and then do nothing differently, trust me, nothing will change. So take the Terri Ann's recommendations, do the download, buy the book, whatever it is for you that you feel compelled to do at this moment, but embrace the change that's now been offered to you. And hopefully it helps you navigate with a little bit more ease and grace. And that is truly the objective of the show for me, for you. I love you all. You've been listening to Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.com. I truly am honored to have you on this journey of change with me, and that you trust me weekly to listen in. Please subscribe so you don't miss a show. And again, I'll see you all next week. Have a fabulous, inspired week full of wonderful change. I love you. Have a great one.